Good evening. Yes, the camera caught me laughing this evening. Good evening and welcome to another program of the Malika Ramsey Show. I am laughing because I'm not going to tell you his profession as yet, but his side job is comedy. So he has me laughing and I really needed a good laugh this evening. So I'm happy to have this guest with me. But I want to thank you very much for joining us on another edition of the Malika Ramsey Show. I am Malika Ramsey McPherson. I hope you guys had a great week, a fabulous week, a productive week, and not too much of a hectic one where you're so tired that you can't even feel your legs. Even if you're tired, get up and move around and get active and so on, and you will be okay. And I trust that at the end of this program, you will certainly be a little more aware and understanding and a little more educated, because tonight is basically a teaching program. My guest is going to teach you in the little time that we have about something that we seldom pay attention to, only when it really seriously affects us. Sometimes, unfortunately, it affects us to the point where we have to seek medical attention and we don't even know what it is that we did wrong to cause what we're going to be talking about to happen to us. Of course, this is the Malika Ramsey Show. We'll take a quick break. On the other side of that break, we'll be educating you this evening. Stay with us. We're back with you, and yes, I'm still smiling. I changed from laughter to smiling. Again, thanks for staying with us. If you see me with my phone, I know you're not used to seeing me with my phone, but this evening I'm trying to do it the young people way, right, Francis? This is what the young people do. They use their phones and so on to guide them when they're doing programs and interviews and presentation. But let me get right to it. It is my pleasure to welcome for the first time, hopefully not for the last time, because he's as busy as a bee. Oh my, got that one in. But it is my pleasure to welcome to this program for the first time, Mr. Francis Michael Bailey. Of course, those of you who follow him on social media, more so Facebook, you would know those are his three names, Francis Michael Bailey. He is one of, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if he's the only one, but I know for sure he is one of Guyana's beekeepers. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Malika, for having me on today. I must correct you there. I'm not the only beekeeper in Guyana, but as part of this educational session, I hope to tell you and the people at home about some of the other beekeepers that we have keeping bees.
Oh.
Yeah, and thank you very much for including me in the Young People Club. You know, despite the gray hairs on my chin.
Happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us, Francis. All right, let's get straight to it. It's and again, this is not. He did just clarify that he's not the only beekeeper in Guyana. This is not to offend anyone who's a part of that profession, but the fact is, it is not like a lawyer or a doctor or even a journalist that you hear about these professions every day. Beekeeping, it's something technical. So tell me, have you been trained for it? Did you have formal training, formal education for it, or is it just a skill that Francis developed over time?
Well, actually, I'm a professional musician, and my background is in multimedia. So I had no training initially. I bumped into my first beehive about 5 years ago, and that really started through photography. That started my journey with bees, but I got training from a beekeeper, you know, and then I went to the Royal College of Queen Bees in the No, I didn't. I just made that up.
I suspect the viewers know it too.
No, I went to the Royal College of Bite Up and Run Out to the Bush a few times.
Wow.
Catch yourself. I learned from some good beekeepers, and I've had mentors. I've been lucky enough to have mentors in other countries. So I utilize the technology available to us. The same Facebook we all chat on, and I've had mentors from different countries. I've had a guy from Germany that has helped me a lot. I use Facebook video and take them into my apiary, which is the place you keep collections of bees. And I'll say, am I doing anything wrong here? I'm very open to criticism and feedback. Most of the beekeepers I've met have been very friendly. They're free with knowledge, so it's all benefited me enormously. And I try to pay these people back, because it's not paid content I'm consuming. It's people sharing their experience or their time with me. So I try to pay that forward by educating other people about bees, about honey production, about being safe, and avoiding bite up, as we call it.
Viewers, I must also let you know that Francis is into honey production. We have two bottles. Let me be specific here, because I was warned earlier. 2 bottles of honey and a jar of honey. We'll have them on display a little later on in the program. I have to be very careful, because I've already been accused by said beekeeper of possibly trying to take some of his product tonight.
Well, it was positioned conspicuously close to your bag. I'm not saying anything on air tonight, but let this serve as evidence.
Before you go on though, you said something that I want to pick up on. You talked about, in your own funny, your own humorous way, bite up and run away and so on.
Well, it should really be sting up, but in Guyana, right. Everything is bite up.
Everything is bite up. But usually if somebody gets stung, and again, you said 5 years ago. Usually if someone gets stung, they run away and they're done with that. What inspires you? Why were you so curious about bees that even in the face of danger, you chose to go back and research them and work? Because obviously you had to research them and work and become a part of the honey production and of course the beekeeping business.
Well, a few reasons. One of the first reasons was at the time when I transitioned into beekeeping, I was doing a lot of animation, and I found myself behind the computer 16 hours a day modeling things, building digital worlds, and I was really longing to be outside. So I started photography as a hobby to take me outside more. And then while I was outside, I encountered this magnificent colony of bees that just fascinated me. And the more I learned about bees, I like learning about things, and I started to go to town on anything I tried to learn about. And the more I learned about bees, the more fascinating they were, the more I wanted to peer into their world and understand more about them. I started discovering their different types of honey. It was just the adventure, the adrenaline rush. I've been stung quite a few times, and after a while, after a particular experience where I think the bees almost killed me, they really tried their best that day. But knowing what it's like to come under attack by Africanized bees, or these killer bees, that's what drives me to continue. I have a part of my business is offering bee removals to customers. I run a honey production business where I rear bees, but I don't really have to go trapping bees. I could set traps in the wild, but the catch service I offer is really part of this general feeling that I can do something. It's a sense of purpose. I can help out in my community, help keep people safe, and help educate people about bees so they can keep themselves and each other safe as well.
I'm happy you talked about that, because you talked about, again, educating people and also the fact that you have been severely stung. How do you balance the fear from other members of society, other citizens who are not into bees? How do you balance that? Because to them, bees are bad, bees kill you, they sting you, you go to the hospital. But to you, to a beekeeper or bee lovers or whatever you want to call them, people who study bees, they're a good part of the environment. They're good for the environment. How do you find the middle ground? How do you balance the two, bad as against being afraid of bees, and good as in the purpose it serves the environment?
Life works out its own balance. It finds its own balance, and my purpose is to find my own equilibrium within that. And to find that balance, I think these sorts of conversations where you try and educate others about bees. There's this misconception in Guyana. If I could tackle a few of them, one of them is that you'll go to a house, there's some bees flying in someone's roof. They've been there for 2 years, and someone say it's honeybee. But you say, no, sir, they're Africanized bees, or they're the deadly kind of bee. But we imagine the two are very separate. But Africanized bees are the bees that are responsible for killing people, also collect honey.
They are honeybees. So all bees are honeybees?
Not all bees are honeybees, but this specific type of bee we're talking about, the Mellifera, with the yellow and black stripe, they all collect honey, right? Apis mellifera. There's different types of apis, right? But they all collect honey. There are some bees that don't collect honey in great quantities, right? And we have different types of bees in Guyana. We have stingless bees as well. These bees actually were all introduced. The ones that we know that are killing people, or the ones we most identified from Winnie the Pooh, were brought here by European settlers many years ago. But the bees that are indigenous or native to this part of the world, sadly are not really, the limelight doesn't really get focused on them, but they're equally fascinating. I'd say in some cases they're even more fascinating than the bees to which we're accustomed. But that's how we find balance, by educating people, letting folks know that simple things like dumping tires and fridges and stoves in the bushes actually has a direct impact on the number of attacks that will result. So don't dump something in the bush, don't put your tire in under that shrub, and you can avoid someone in the future bumping into that hive, or a cow knocking it and stinging somebody.
What if I encounter a swarm hive, of course, you can correct me here, swarm hive of bees, let's say in front of my gate, and I call Francis because Francis is the beekeeper, and I call Francis to come take it away. Why Francis would come and try to quietly take them away without killing them? Why would you not kill them? Apart from the fact that you're a beekeeper.
Okay. I'm not going to be self-righteous and say I've never had to kill a hive of bees, right? I have, but I do say that I'm a beekeeper. I'm not a bee reaper, right?
Okay.
By all means necessary, I try to capture the bees alive and not have to kill them. But it's always a matter of public safety. If a hive is huge, it's been there a very long time, if they're animals in close proximity, if they're vulnerable adults or children, depending on the time of day, all these factors can affect the decision you make. If they're not accessible, can I calm them down in time before it becomes a serious event? Those things determine what happens to a hive. But generally, I try and keep bees alive because they're very important to the environment. They are responsible for more than 1/3 of the fruit and veg that we consume. So if you have a belanje, you like belanje, if you like tomatoes, all of those things, you like mangoes, all of those things, bees are involved in the pollination of those crops. So they are simultaneously extremely important to the environment, to the extent that our lives are intrinsically tied up with the lives of bees, whether or not we admit it. If bees disappeared, I think the estimate is that humanity would have another 4 years or so of food being grown. They're that
Very
important.
short time.
They do a ton of work. So and at the same time, we have to try and avoid these creatures stinging us and putting us in the hospital.
Okay, all right. Viewers, we'll take a break. On the other side of the break, Francis will tell you what you can do at home. How can you not only protect yourselves, but protect the environment by not killing the bees. He will give you some ideas and things that you can do. We'll also talk about Francis's honey production business, and I have the 2 bottles again, and being specific, 2 bottles and 1 jar of honey here. So stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. On the spot here. We didn't know this one is coming. I know. I promised that he'll tell you what you can do in terms of your community and bees and so on. And he knew this was coming, but he thought I would have forgotten about it. Francis, what is, because remind you, we're shifting slowly away from the bees of themselves and we're going to the honey. Francis, what is authentic honey?
Authentic honey. Well, honey is one of the most adulterated foods in the world. So this is a question close to my heart. I myself, I was caught in the old honey scam. Mind you, I'm not trying to push everybody to buy my honey. I want you to buy honey from a beekeeper, alright? Mm-hmm. But authentic honey has different forms. It's honey that has been produced by bees because it has been collected from flowers. They've collected nectar from flowers in the fields, mm-hmm. right? Blossoming plants, and fetched that nectar home and done thousands of trips and loaded up honeycomb. And someone came and took that honeycomb without feeding the bees sugar, mm-hmm. or sugar water, and they took that honeycomb and extracted it and produced a particular variety of honey, a flavor that can be traced back to a plant and not a bag of sugar. Yeah, so, and authentic honey has different characteristics. It has different flavors, but there are some things definitely I can do in Guyana. This is a question I get a lot. There are a few things I could tell people to look out for. If you'd be happy enough to pass me one of the bottles or jars at some point.
He's going right into it. Right into it without me asking. Viewers, if I'm stretching, it looks to you on camera like I'm stretching. I am. And this is...
That's some jamun. That's some jamun honey. That's not from my bees. I have bees tapping different flavors of honey. Mm-hmm. But all I wanted to do was highlight this little ring of froth at the top of the bottle, and that is something people can look for. Honey comes in different colors. You can have golden honey. There's a few colors down there. We don't have to go through all of them. That's the darkest of the lot that I brought today. There's an orange honey.
I'd like them to see the other colors though, you know, Francis.
Alright, this is like an orange honey. You see?
Yeah, let me just hold the other bottle so you can see the difference. You see?
Difference in color. And then there's a light golden one. That's black mangrove honey over there.
Alright, this is the one in the jar. This is the one I've been warned about.
Because it could fit perfectly into your bag.
My bag, yes. Here's if you see my bag, it can fit.
Yeah, so you get different colors, but as you can see, this honey is pretty runny, right? It's not thick. It's not
thick like
extremely.
The first one.
No, none of them are extremely thick. Okay. As a matter of fact, you might find the jamun is one of the thicker honeys you'll find. But we're in a tropical country. Imagine trying to take a straw and put it into a very thick liquid and suck up on it. Bees have a little straw, proboscis, that they use to suck up nectar. So it need to be a bit runny. It wouldn't be as thick as, you know, as the bulk of the honey you see in the supermarket. And another way to tell authentic honey is, does the flavor change over the course of a year? If the flavor or the brand of honey you're buying, the flavor is the same all year long, then I invite you to find a plant for me in the wild that's bearing or blossoming all year long. There is no flower like that. Honey changes with the seasons. And where we are in Guyana, we're in the second neotropical convergence zone. But what that basically means is 80% of the honey in this country is produced between like end of September and the middle of December. There's long periods in the year where there is no honey. But if you walk through the supermarket, you wouldn't know that. But I know moves are afoot with the Guyana Apicultural Society. I know Food and Drug have recently had some sensitization, and also there's been some discussions with the folks at GLDA to tackle this problem of fake honey on the market.
Before I talk about how they, if they want Francis's honey, how they can get, this might be going into a different realm. I'm not
That's
sure.
fine. Go wherever you want.
Is there are you in a position, or any beekeeper out in Guyana, in a position to say, pinpoint how many hives we can find, or how many hives we can find in one area, or this area, that area?
Well, Guyana, the last article I read, I think it was from 2011, but the calculation was Guyana can support about 17 million colonies of bees. In apiaries across Guyana, I think with the collection of beekeepers we have, there's less than 1,000 colonies on the management of beekeepers in the country. All right. One of the larger operations would be Nature Zone in Berbice. All right. My friend Ravi Rajkumar, great guy. So there are beekeepers you can buy from, like Ravi. If Lyndon Stewart were to try to sell me a bottle of honey, or Aubrey Roberts, there are a number of people. There's a young guy coming up, St. Clair. You know, there's a few people I would say, yeah, this honey I would buy, but it's in such short supply that most beekeepers, or all the beekeepers rather, I know in Guyana, run out of honey at some point in the year. So it's an industry that's ripe for expansion. Given there are some limitations, you need people that are willing to take a bit of tolerant of pain.
let me come back to that, what we promised the viewers, and I covered it a bit already, but what those at home can do in terms of their community to protect themselves, while at the same time ensuring that we preserve what is there in terms of the bees and what can be contributed toward honey production.
All right. So the best thing I can say to folks at home is be considerate of each other. Right. When you go to throw something away, if you have things to throw away, as we often do, you have an old tire or some sort of structure, I want you to know from today that you could potentially be creating a home for Africanized bees, because they don't have any other reason to live low down in the bushes other than someone creating home for them. And often it's these colonies that result in the deaths of persons who come under attack. And it may not be that the person aggravated the hive themselves. In some instances it can be that a cow was walking through a field that bushes grew up in, that someone threw a tire into, that bees moved into. So do we blame the cow, or do we blame the person that threw the tire there? Is it manslaughter or bee slaughter? What do we call it? But I want folks to know that we have a responsibility to each other, and it starts with just simply being considerate of the environment around us and how we dispose of things in the proper manner. Check your ceiling regularly. Just stand up and look up, and if you see little insects moving in and out regularly, you likely have a bee problem. You can call GLDA, call a private beekeeper, but get them removed. The longer you wait, the worse the problem will become.
All right, Francis, Christmas is coming soon. We have Thanksgiving before Christmas. We don't celebrate Thanksgiving. We never used to celebrate Thanksgiving here, even though my final word tonight is about Thanksgiving, but we'll get to that soon. But let's stick to Christmas. Christmas is coming soon. We use honey for a lot of things. A lot of I like to call them fancy foods. They're fancy comfort foods.
Fancy things.
Yes, the fancy things. I like to eat the fancy things. How can they get your honey? How can they get to Francis's honey?
I have a page online called Bailey's Bees. Okay. So you can order honey that way. Currently, to get honey from me, I have a waiting list, and it's not to be snobbish. I have